Good morning, everybody. So today we're going to talk about a brief history of time. Not really time. We're going to talk a lot about timelines themselves, the order of time, and how to tell the differences between years and centuries and how that all works so that when you're reading in the textbook and online and you see very often they'll switch between this year or that century. And so you have a better idea of how that's happening when you come across it. This might run a little bit long, so I might have to put this into part 1 and part 2, but I'll try to talk fast to keep it all together for you. But we can certainly split it up if need be. All right, so when we try to understand time, we need to first begin with time is resistant to a simple definition. Time is not always the exact same depending on how people, view it. If you're a fan of Dr. Sheldon Cooper or Albert Einstein, how physicists see time is not always exactly how everybody else sees time. For our purposes, we're not going to get into the physics of it. We're going to look at time as a orderly, logical series of events, and that's called chronology. Okay, chronology. Chrono means time. Chronology is putting things in time order. Okay, we can't see, hear, smell, taste time, but we can certainly feel its effects. Our bodies age, trees and plants grow, homework is due, homework becomes past due. So when we try to understand our history of time, we begin as history is an account of the past. And why is it important? Because we want to look at the past, see where we went right, see where we went wrong. Hopefully we learn our lessons from the past and try to, move on and do better in the future. And so that kind of takes, events that took place yesterday are the past, today's the present, tomorrow's the future, but tomorrow our future is the present, and what will ultimately be the future will be the past. Kind of odd if you sit and think about it for a little while. So when we look at understanding timelines job is to help us visualize how things are arranged in that chronological order. So here we just have a very simple timeline, and you can see 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 2020. Okay, we divide the timelines in this case into segments that show a particular year, but the number and divisions of their time distance depends on our purpose. So if I wanted to show you 1,000 years, I might divide things up, and those lines might be, 100 years apart. So this might be 2000, 2010, 2020, 2030, 2040. So it just depends on what your particular purpose is. For historians, timelines are going to help them visualize an event relative to another. And what relative means is, is it before? Is it after? Is it close to? Is it far from? By placing events on the timeline, we can see when they happened and develop a sense of order that helps us understand that very often cause and effect relationship between one event and another. Okay? So, we're going to create our historical timeline, and so we draw a line that looks a lot like a number line. Now, kind of the difference here is you'll notice that we split not at 0 like on a number line, but at year 1. Now, sometimes with a timeline, you'll see they do split it at 0. I hold that there was never any year 0, that they had a year that wasn't a year. That's just confusing. So in time, we're going to start with year 1. Okay? And then we're going to add some lines before that 1, to the left of the 1, to the negative side, or to the positive side, to the right of. Okay? So in this exercise, we're going to say that each of these lines is 100 years. Okay? So now when I start to label my lines, here's where things start to get a little bit confusing. Because now, like in a number line, I have numbers to the left of and numbers to the right of, and those numbers are the same. So if we find year 100 on your timeline, we'll notice that I have year 100 here and year 100 here. So that would make it tough for historians. Which year 100 are you talking about? Which year 200 are you talking about? Okay. So what do we do? So if there's 2 year 100s, how do we know which one we're talking about? And that comes in with BC and AD. To avoid this problem, historians agree that the imaginary year 1 refers to the birth of Jesus Christ. So, years to the left of, to the negative side, are referred to as BC or before Christ. And you've probably heard that years to the right of, okay, are AD. Now, think for a second, what does AD mean? Okay, a lot of people think that it means after death, and that is not right. Okay, AD means Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. Okay, so the year of our Lord, there was the birth of Jesus Christ, and from then on. So if it meant after death, that would mean that he was born and died at the same time in year 1. Okay, so it does not mean after death. It means Anno Domini, year of our Lord. Now, there's an inherent problem when we mark our whole calendar by the life of Jesus Christ. Well, there's a lot of people who have a different belief structure than that. So, the divisions between BC and AD obviously were developed by Christian historians. So to be more sensitive to non-Christians, we tried to make it a little bit more neutral. BC became BCE, before the Common Era, and AD became CE, the Common Era. Now, for my purposes, I still use BC and AD because that's what I grew up learning, and so I will, probably refer to that at some point in the course, but just know that BC is, before Christ or before Common Era, means the same thing. Anno Domini, year of our Lord, and Common Era, AD, CE, mean the same thing, to the right of the number line. Okay, so here's what we're talking about when we look at, are we, putting events in order? And so here we have, in 323 BC was the death of Alexander the Great. You'll study him a lot in world history. And in 120 AD, the Roman Empire was at its height. So we can look at the events and we can look and see, well, this was before this, and we have an idea of how long between the two. Okay? So, historians think about time in groups of years. 10 years is a decade. 100 years is a century. 1,000 years is a millennium. Okay? Now, there's some more, different terms for groups that are not quite as firm as decades, centuries, and millenniums. So we also have groups of years according to a shared pattern of human life during that time. We call them ages or eras. Okay? So eras or ages. So like the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, All right, oftentimes these periods don't really have a definite beginning or end, but we have a general guess, a general idea. So, from evidence recovered by scientists, historians are scientists, we believe that human beings began to use metal, known as bronze, because it was soft and easy to mine and easy to work with, around 3000 BC. So, 1500 years later, in 1500 BC approximately, we believe that they started mining and using iron. So, that period from 3000 BC to 1500 BC, where they were using bronze, is the Bronze Age. Exactly 3000 BC did they really discover bronze and start smelting it and forming it into tools? No, probably not. It was somewhere around there. And once the Bronze Age was over, what age came after the Bronze Age? All right. Pretty straightforward there, right? The Iron Age. Okay. So, now we want to talk about year versus century. And we're going to pick this up in its own little video. All right? So, I'll see you next time. Take care. And let me know if you have any questions.